Yeah, we're live. Hey, Jenny.
Yeah. Hello.
You
We
keep talking while
we
I
did it.
do this thing with Facebook.
Okay, so how was your day? So should I not ask you questions?
Well, that's smart. My day. Well, how was my day today? It was actually good for the most part. There's some things I haven't done that I still want to do on my to do. No, I call it today list. To do
Mm.
list has too much stress around it, so I call it my today list. But
What
yes,
happens if you don't get to something from your today list?
I just do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow will be today. So it just means that I'm always on point.
Exactly. Yeah, you set yourself up for success. I really like that.
Yes, that's exactly what
There's
it
no
is.
failure on your list.
So yeah, we're just waiting for people to join in, and
Where are you putting us?
well, right now I am going to tag you. Yep, right here. I see. I'm on. Well, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna tag you. Reverend David Alexander is on his way to. I can hear his footstep coming down the hall. I've been making up stuff. That's right. There you go. Oh wait. Okay.
There's a
I,
slight delay, so I'll be right back if I get kicked out. I'm probably just gonna freeze for a second. So I'll be right back.
look, I'm trying to tag you. Okay, I'm trying to tag you in the body of the video. Oh, there we go. Let's see. But it doesn't allow me to do that. So I'm going to tag you in my comments.
Okay,
You
I'm
can hear
back.
me, right?
Yes, now I can.
Okay. Oh, so you did freeze. There
I
you
did.
are. You
Yes.
have been tagged.
Thanks.
So yes, we are going to wait. Let me see something here. We're going to continue our conversation on belonging and identity.
Mhm.
Uh,
And we have a third being
yep,
that's
I like
coming
that.
in to join the conversation.
Yep.
And I'm really looking forward to where the conversation is going to go with his input. Um,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, you know. So anyway, I'm out there on the Froche. That's my dear friend Jeannie, Jeannie Lobato. We've been having this conversation for a long time, most of it on WhatsApp, and great conversations. And we're like, we gotta take this out and go on a tour and speak to people and set them free. And we're like, yeah. No, we just thought it was good to share because the conversation around belonging and identity, it's not just it's a universal thing. And we started this about a month ago, April 20th. So yeah, we did it. We didn't even plan it. It was a 420 day. We must have been so high, and other people celebrating 420. We're like, let's go do it. Yeah, man, we all belong. And
That's not what we were saying. That's not what I was saying, but I was
you
saying
said
quite
don't
the
include you in
contrary.
that, right?
Yeah, I was saying quite the contrary. But yeah, I
Well, were you saying that we don't belong?
I was saying that I feel like I don't belong. Yeah. Not that I don't belong, but I don't feel like I belong. I know
I
I
get
belong.
that. Okay, yes, but that's still the same. That's why we're having the conversation. Okay, I see you're going. You did like Lucy.
Mhm.
But that's the thing. For me, the essence of the conversation and my work comes from feeling like I don't belong, and struggling with that. And through the work that I do, the work I've done on myself, the inner work that I've done is recognizing that, you know, we all belong and we're not the same necessarily, and we are the same. There was something that my friend, mentor, and doula used to say. Oh my God, I wrote it down, but I don't know where it is. But something like, I might jack it up. There is a way where all of us, let me
He's on his way.
He's on his way.
That was
Okay,
his
cool.
message. He's like,
Yes, I'm going
he
to. I'm
said
going.
enough for everyone that wants to know his whereabouts.
Yes,
He's
he's on his
setting
way.
up. Everybody calm down.
Right? Let me. So, and let's see if I. So she said there is a way, like there is, there is one way in which not a way. There is a. I'm gonna just say it my way. There is a way in which we're like everybody,
Right.
and then there is a way in which we are um unique or something like that. I have to find. I'll find it. But basically, the idea is I really got to find that now. It's like we are the same, but then there are ways that we are different, and there are ways that we are alike, and there are ways that we're not alike, and it all belongs. Reverend Dr. David Alexander, how are you doing?
Good, good, good.
It's all good. Right on time. Right on time. Thank you for joining us. Where Ginny and I were just really having a conversation that most people would have before they go live.
Yeah.
But because we are so comfortable with who we are, we're just having a behind the scenes conversation while we're live.
While we're live. Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. We'll just
Yes,
jump
yes.
right into it.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be
Yeah,
here.
we started this conversation before you came in. I was sharing with the listeners that Jeannie and I started this conversation. Um, well, a long time ago, last year, we'll go back and forth on WhatsApp, and one day we talked about doing it live, but we never did. Last month, we just decided to just do it, and we did it. Well, in fact, in a conversation, I said, "Yeah, you say we need to do this conversation live, but I'm waiting for you to tell me when you're available." She said, "I thought I was waiting for you." I'm like, "No, I'm waiting for you." She said, "No, I'm waiting for you." So we set a date and we did it, and really just thought, let's have the conversation. And then now, two became three because you heard it and you were like, "This is my topic," like a song. This is my song.
Right. Exactly. This is my song.
Yes, yes.
Belonging. Yeah. As Jeannie knows, that's it's on our shirts. I mean, it's just what we're all about at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. So,
Mm.
yeah, belonging. Let's get into it. Let's keep it
Let's get
rolling.
in.
It's I think it's such a important, universal topic. It's central to to our being. It's something that we universally long for, and yet
Mhm.
we're living in a world in which our universally on humanity right now, right, our various levels of not feeling like we belong is
Mhm.
causing us to act out in ways
Yes.
that perpetuates the not belonging,
Mhm.
such that we're discriminating and tribe, grouping, and then attacking other groups, and do it all in all kinds of weird and interesting ways right now in humanity, and
Mhm.
that is doing nothing but perpetuating the feeling of not belonging, while creating a false sense of belonging within those identities that are attacking others,
Mhm.
right? So it's all this pseudo belonging in order to heal the unbelonging that's underneath it all, and it was just a big mess. And so I think
It's a big mess.
anywhere where we could talk about, how to heal that, and places where we can create belonging, we can do a service to humanity. So I know that this conversation lends itself to that.
Yes, absolutely. And just so you know, what you just said is what we're doing. We're having a conversation. I might have a question or not. You jump in when you feel like, and because speaking of question, the question that I had was just to just ask you, what is your take? How do you define belonging? How do we know we belong? How do we know when we belong?
I think, well, we've done some classes on this. There's a great book, because I rushed in to sit down. I'm looking over here. I'm like seeing if I can find it while one of you are talking. I may run over and
Mhm.
grab it if I see
Okay.
it. But Sebene Selassie is the author. It's called You Belong. Fantastic. We've done some courses on the book, written some other curriculum around it. Um, and then there's the work of a guy by the name of Ben McBride, um, who's a social justice activist in Oakland, California. Um, and he talks about belonging from a social justice lens, which I find really interesting. And one of the things he discusses is structural, uh, cultural and structural belonging. So
Mm,
cultural belonging is like identity groups, like, do I belong in this, however I identify racially, or, where I
mm,
live, or those various, cultural elements, what I would probably call affinity groups.
mm,
Um, and then structurally, um, does the society amplify or promote the belonging of me in the space, right? So
mm,
that's, you might think of ADA compliance for somebody who's otherly body abled, right? Is there structural
mm,
belonging? Can I get? I was just at a dinner here in Atlanta, Human Rights Campaign. It's a very progressive audience and a very progressive, forward-thinking topic. They gave the Civil Rights Award to William Barber, um,
mm.
Bishop William Barber, and he was
Yeah.
in the room, but he was off to the side. And when it was time for him, they moved the spotlight, and he spoke from his table. And one of the things he pointed out was that because of my different physical abilities, I can't get onto the stage that you all have in this room tonight.
Mm,
So there we are,
mm.
very progressive, very liberal, very,
Right.
open-minded, group of people, 800 people, organization that's doing great work. And we missed it. The organizers, I wasn't part of
Mm,
planning that, but that group, completely missed it. You had a guest
yeah.
speaker and they physically cannot get, so that's structural belonging. you know and he said, here in this dinner, he said, if people in wheelchairs, they could not weave, this banquet hall with these tables and
Mm,
chairs the way they're set up. So clearly, he said, I know that you don't have anybody out there in wheelchairs at any of the tables, right? So he
mm.
called out. Here he was receiving an award, and he just started
Right.
calling the group out, because it's that constant mindfulness. so
Yes.
so of course, there's, does the society create space for all the different ways that belonging is important? We can
Mm,
look at it through that lens. We can look at it through culturally. Do I belong to the groups that I identify with, and things like that? And then I think there's something even beyond all of that, from the spiritual perspective and the work that I
mhm,
do, Spiritual
mhm,
Living Center of Atlanta, is what I would call deep belonging,
mhm.
which is that universal, spiritual element of, that says you belong to the universe in which you live, to quote
Yes.
Ernest Holmes. But it's that universe, there's nothing. One of the things that 7A talks about in her book is belonging just is, and there's really nothing you can do about it. you know
Yes.
like, you
Yes.
belong whether you think you do or not, whether you
Mhm,
feel like you do or not, whether society,
mhm.
affirms you or not, whether culturally you fit in. Like, you belong because you're breathing, because you
Yes.
exist, right?
Yes.
Because what you are is the universe itself, and
Mhm,
therefore, how could existence
mhm.
is the fact of belonging, right?
Yes.
And that's very deep, and and so all three are important, right? We need our cultural belonging, we need the structural
Mhm,
belonging, but
mhm.
even if we have those things, we could still feel a gap in our life. We could still feel out of place,
Yes.
and you know um you know, people that look like me, who could be financially very well off. Rich white men can feel very out of place. Have all the
Mhm,
privileges of society, but then
mhm.
like, still cry themselves to sleep at night, right? Because
Right.
something's missing. You know,
Yes.
so it's all those layers happening all at the same time. It's a lot to keep track of.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
Sounds
Jenny, you gonna jump in?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it sounds and also feels complicated.
yeah,
So delicate. It's so delicate. There's so much room for possible error in that.
Right, yeah, like at the dinner, right? I mean, it's like you're a group
Yeah.
of well-minded people, and they got really
Progressives.
yeah, progressive, yeah, flubbed it pretty bad, you know.
Right, like
Yeah,
oops.
and because and that happens, and so yeah, so there's being aware of just our own journey of belonging, and I think we can help ourselves in that, and just meditatively and spiritually just constantly reminding ourselves, I belong to the universe, I belong to this moment, I belong to this time and space, and I have agency, and I have the authority to take up space in my environment. And I can, just as I'm saying it, I can feel all the ways that kind of affirmation and way of holding myself helps create an atmosphere around me that is very supportive of the walk that I then carry out into the world. But that said, that doesn't dismiss the work that needs to be done for the
Absolutely.
cultural and structural belonging to
Absolutely.
ensure that internal feeling is actually
Yes.
the external experience.
Yeah. It's both the individual and the collective, isn't it?
Yeah.
The individual informs the collective, and the collective supports the individual. Just kind of as I'm thinking about it, I've never even said it like that before. But because when I think of what you said earlier about cultural belonging, structural belonging, and we could be in a place where we feel culturally we belong, structurally we belong. But if we don't have that deeper sense that we belong, I feel like that's the root. It's like the root is not strong enough. So that really recognizing that I belong, period. I often say that, sometimes as part of belonging, we're trying to fit in. We're trying to find the tribe. And in order to be in a tribe, to be in a community, there are times when we have to give up something. We have to give up something to be in a community because we think, oh yeah, they're close to what I'm looking for, but I can't express my spiritual beliefs. I can't express my religious beliefs. I can talk about my political affiliation. But other than that, it's great. But I believe when there is that grounding, which is a day-to-day thing. I don't know. I think every day gives us an opportunity to fall deeper. And I remember someone said to me one time, "Well, in the spiritual realm, you don't talk about fall." I'm like, "Okay." Whether you fall, you're falling into the arms of God. When you fall in love, you're falling in love. But anyway, we fall deeper. We go deeper into the essence of who we are. And I think when you talked about agency, it gives us the space and the place to say, "I belong here. I'm uncomfortable." And also, speaking of uncomfortability, not wanting to be uncomfortable, I believe actually blocks our growth, because growth itself is uncomfortable. We're going to make mistakes. Some people may leave that event today and beat themselves up for months after today. Like, how did we miss that? Or just recognizing it could actually create a space of compassion. Like, wow, we see ourselves as very progressive. And the person that we are honoring, we need to make space for them. Huh. Oh, wow. Maybe that can open a sense of compassion and listen to people that you feel like you're divided from, or like they just can't even when I think about them, I can't do it. But when we have that compassion for self, it opens up not just the heart and the mind to allow the others, to include others. We may not have dinner with them, but we can recognize, well, we all make mistakes, and it is painful sometimes. It is uncomfortable sometimes. And in the West, we don't like to be uncomfortable. We want to ensure everything. We want to have an alarm for everything. We want to ask who's to blame so that never happens again. So on some level, that's necessary. But sometimes life is life. Life is always lifing. No matter what, you can insure it. It's like life insurance. Well, that's a whole different conversation. But just in this context, I'm thinking it's trying to insure life, and I'm just having some new insights as we talk today. It's like we can't insure life. I understand life insurance, but you really can't insure life, because life is constantly changing, shifting, and morphing. as we are changing, shifting, and morphing and thinking thoughts. And yeah, it's a lifelong journey.
Yes. Is that pause for me?
It's just a pause for whoever, and maybe pause for what wants to come up.
I have something to say. I agree that, the rub creates the diamond. And within that, there's a safety, there's a safety conversation. So I can go to somewhere, I don't know, where I feel like I don't belong, and I can do all the affirmations and do all the work and convince myself that I belong, but I might not feel safe because everyone has this weird sense of belonging that is not quite on point. So there's just like everyone's on edge, and it's kind of the mess that David was talking about. It's just a mess. So it's like, how do I, kind of not specifically talking about me, but how do I put myself in those situations to create the rub, to really convince myself and my soul that I belong, when inherently I just don't feel safe because I'm surrounded by people that don't feel like they belong. So they might, physical safety is what I'm talking about. Does that man, and maybe that's coming from a woman's perspective.
Yeah, say more, because when you said physical safety, put a different spin. Say more about that.
Yeah, so I do not feel safe in spaces where there's no diversity, age, gender, everything, race. So I can go to, I don't know, let's just say a concert. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of, physical or mental stimulation. And let's just say it's a group of all men or a group of all whatever. Everyone is 50 years old. I don't feel safe. I know.
Hey. Yeah, we can tell. It was obvious. Everyone is 50. What? Okay, go ahead.
I need to change that number. But
move it up.
Yeah. I mean, I think I said what I wanted to say. It's just not feeling like you don't belong. I feel like there's also a feeling of I am not safe in this space. I'm not safe at home because I don't belong, because I'm the only brown person in my neighborhood. So, whatever the other is, doesn't feel safe that I'm here. So it's like, I don't know how, as a collective, we surpass that.
Different things come up for me, and I'm cautious not to say this as a suggestion for somebody else, but what comes up for me, it's like sometimes even that feeling of not feeling safe is an information. It's like, you need to leave. Sometimes I'm thinking of what Reverend David shared, whereas Bishop Barber is being honored, but there was a sort of unbelonging, and he could be quiet about that and feel some kind of way about it, like, I can't even believe these people. Let me just go forth and keep protesting and forget all this, or just say, let me speak to what I'm experiencing, what I'm noticing, that I feel like I haven't been included in this space by speaking it. Now, when you talk about it from a woman being in a space where there are more men, yeah, that maybe that feeling, that nudge is leave. Sometimes I think, especially those of us in spiritual communities, and I have a little judgment about that. It's like, you can just affirm I am safe. Yes, you are safe. But we got to pay attention to that inner guide. And that's what, for me personally, that's what I do, being able to be able to tune in. Sometimes people haven't developed that ability to listen, to ask for guidance and say, is it safe for me to be here? Because sometimes even the unsafety, that not feeling safe, is also an opportunity to grow. So I can't really say there is a specific answer to that, but I think the moment calls for growth. So it could be feeling like, okay, I usually don't come to a place like this, and the feeling of what is happening? My computer just went black. The computer's feeling left out. But so it's that. So in that space, it could be your inner guidance telling you leave. It could be an opportunity for you to grow. It could be an opportunity to speak up. That's kind of as I listen to you now, and anybody else who may have been in that space. And I think it's a moment to moment thing, and I'll stop there for now. I'll tag Reverend David.
Yeah, this is a lot of good stuff there. I think we have to examine, again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just, it is unique to the situations, but the intersection between belonging and safety, I think is an interesting one that I think brings in for me the elements of power dynamics, gender dynamics, as you mentioned, but power over dynamics, what's the makeup that we're talking about. So in the case of William Barber, the power over dynamic was, well, he was the honored guest, so he had a choice. As you mentioned, he could have remained silent and said it to organizers backstage, or maybe made a fuss about it at his next event and talked about, hey, those guys, or a dozen other possibilities, or he could have presenced it in the room as he did with everyone. That both he had the privilege to do so because he had the microphone, right? He was the honored guest. What are you going to do? You're not going to cut the mic off and say, "Oh, never mind. We decided not to honor you after all." So he's got a pretty good hand up in the power over dynamic there, and respectability, and so it's a teaching moment. And so he, I think handled it. He didn't beat people up with it, but he used it as a teaching moment and an opportunity to kind of, create, up the awareness in the space, which was a very wonderful and gracious thing to do. As Jeannie's saying, a woman in a particular space may not always have those power over dynamics. So I think those things have to be sort of analyzed, and therefore it may be an intuition thing. It may be, and there's so much that as men that we're just not getting. I spoke Sunday about the idea of, and this, I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a tangent, but there's two words that I don't like using when applying to myself. And one of them is wokeness, which is really popular right now, right? Everybody's all about this wokeness thing. And I appreciate a lot of the woke work that's happening, right? That's good stuff. I'm for it. But from a, so from a universal spiritual plane, wokeness being conscious awareness, yeah, totally. I'm totally on board. But from a cultural context of where it came from the African American Civil Rights Movement and the caution to stay aware of the constant threats to one's safety. And so in that very specific cultural context of where the word, gained popularity and use, it's like, I, as a white person, no matter how aware, progressive, social justice activated I am, I cannot be woke 24/7. It's not possible, right? I cannot be, as I know, because I live with and I'm married to a woman from Zambia, right? And so she reminds me all the time, being a Black woman in the Western world, of the things that I don't see. I don't see it because I'm a male. I don't see it because I'm not Black, etc. And so therefore I cannot be 24/7. I have the option and the privilege to turn it off, to ignore it, to just be uneducated and unconscious. And so I don't like using the term because I don't think it's possible for me. I can certainly strive towards it. But I think it's kind of the same thing. Like there are things that we're not aware about in terms of safety and belonging and things like that we can as the organizers probably did. Oh, this is fine, right? Everything's fine. The room is fine, and he'll sit right here, and we'll do it. And there were just things that they, uh, I don't want to say couldn't have been aware of. They could have been,
Hmm.
right? But they weren't, right? They just weren't aware of because they don't walk in the world the
Yeah,
way he does.
right. Which is another example of privilege. And because people respond to that word, particularly white privilege, differently and as if it's a bad thing. But we have different kind of privileges that we carry with us just by the
Mhm.
nature of being in a physical body. Rev D, Deborah L. Johnson, often once she gave this example, and she had us go through. She did this exercise. She said, "So think about yourself in just the course of a day, and the things that you do. Just think about yourself. What comes up for you? And people think about what they did, and now think about yourself as a person. And people come up with their names. And then she asked, how many of you thought of yourself as being able-bodied?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
And
Privilege.
she said, exactly. She said, for somebody who's on a wheelchair, if they're invited to come somewhere to an event, the first few questions are going to be, is there accessibility?
Mhm.
If I get an invitation, I'm not thinking about that because it's not my world. Though I am aware of it, I guess to kind of tie into what you're saying, in that sense, I'm not woke to that.
Right.
It's not my reality.
And
And go ahead, you were going to say something?
no, I just just agreement. You can be
Yeah.
sensitive to it, and you
Yes.
can try, you can attempt
Mm-hmm.
to be aware of it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not possible for you to live with a 24/7, radar on it because that's not your reality.
Yeah. And I like what you said. It's not even possible for us to be that open to everything. The brain will fry itself. There's a reason why we have a conscious mind. And if we look at each day as an opportunity to grow, to learn, to expand, to learn something new, to make a mistake, people are going to go, ouch. And we have an opportunity to say, I'm sorry, my mistake. I apologize. We got Linda McLeod. Is it McLeod? Yes, from Unity of Midtown, St. Speak of Florida. Yes, welcome. Welcome. Jeannie, say something. You're kind of quiet listening and
I am.
taking it all in like you do, right?
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking is if we cannot relate to each other, can we truly help to make each other feel like we belong? Like, for example, I'm never going to relate. I can understand. I don't know. I can't relate to someone in a wheelchair because I've never been in a wheelchair. So, can I truly help? Maybe it's not my job. Matter of fact, it's not my job to make anyone else feel belong, but it's compassionate. It's a nice way to be. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, so is the issue of, a compassionate and just world where everyone feels like they belong just is too far because there's so many differences and it's what makes our world beautiful in my opinion. There's so many differences amongst us, but I can't relate to you. So I'm going to make that mistake a million times over where I'm going to, maybe if I'm an event planner, forget that one little detail where you couldn't get to. Obviously, then, that person is, chooses if they want to forgive me or not. But yeah, I don't know. Can we truly get to a place in society where everyone is uh, truly has an affinity for each other when we can't understand each other?
Reverend David, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I love it. What a
Oh, me too. I'm like, I feel like
the,
I'm at a traffic light.
the challenge of being human, right?
Yes.
I think it means it requires that we talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It requires dialogue and engagement. I think it's in the I believe it's in the Quran. It's there. It's the Muslim version of the story of the Tower of Babel, and the dialogue is about speaking to Allah about why are there so many different tongues and cultures and all of this, that so many, if we're all one, if we've got Allah is all that there is, then why all the difference? And Allah says, so that you'll talk to each other. Basically, I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
messing up the translation there, but this is
Mm-hmm.
so you'll engage with each other. This means that you must get to know each other, right? You must say hi. How are you? How's your family? How's your mom and them?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and and therefore, what are your needs? What are your
Mm-hmm.
how are you doing? How can I help? And so that dialogue and that desire then to know one another requires that we start listening, hearing each other's needs, and then making space for each other. And no,
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily 100% responsible for your feelings and for whether you truly feel like you belong or not, but I am responsible in terms of relationship to make at least the effort to say,
Yes.
what are your needs and how can I help you? Welcome to
Mm-hmm.
my space, welcome to my home. Can I get you something to drink? Right? It's
Mm-hmm.
hospitality. And so much of the Jewish culture and the Torah and the first several books of the Bible, those stories are all about hospitality. In the
Mm-hmm.
Middle East and where all these stories come from, it's all about hospitality, and that's about being in relationship to one another. And hospitality is not a perfect science, but it's a science of relationship and engagement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love this. I feel like I'm watching a broadcast. I'm loving it. And I love what you shared as well, because I feel like, yes, I may not be able to relate to you, but I can be in relationship with you, which is that whole thing about having a conversation. The only thing that needs to be healed is a sense of separation. Just because I don't live somebody's world, don't I'm not on a wheelchair or whatever it is, I'm not a woman, doesn't mean I can't be in relationship. Doesn't mean I can't ask questions. It doesn't even mean I'm not gonna make a mistake. But if the it's I really believe that our responsibility is to create space, make space, and take space. And when we create space for somebody, when we make space for someone, when we take space because we know we belong, something happens on a deeper level. You know, um, it's interesting. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because I'm just not good at doing it. What I'm about to do. I got an email today, and it's about a place where I work every so often, and I'm the host of an event. I love it. I love talking to people. I love being on stage. I love inspiring people. I love making people laugh. And I'm not the speaker, but I'm there, the bridge. And ultimately, I want to be one of those speakers. I mean, I am that, but I would like to have that opportunity with this organization. But so I do me. And with the joy of being able to try and make people laugh, because British people sometimes, oh Lord Jesus. Sometimes I'm like, I know that was funny. But none of y'all laughing. Okay, breathe. And I got an email today from the founder of the organization and said, thank you for being a great ambassador of our company, of our organization. I'm getting a lot of good feedback from people about you. And I remember thinking, wow, it felt good to be seen, and more importantly, it felt good to be acknowledged. And then I thought about that. I said, even though I'm not the one doing the presentation, which is where I really want to be, I can make where I'm at work for me, and people will feel and sense. And I don't do it to say I'm going to let them feel who I am, or I'm going to let them know I just do what I do, and I want to bring ease and laughter and joy to people. So I think what walking into a space, being with one another from that place, like how can I add more love? How can I be that place for love to reveal itself? Even though you're a Republican, even though I don't understand this thing about gender fluidity, even though you're a Muslim neighbor and I know what the Muslim did 9/11. It's like, well, you heard what they said in the news, but there's some more things that you need to understand. If we commit to being the place for love to express itself, we can be in relationship. I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, it's not easy with family members.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be bucking head with my father, and I love my father. And we just have to be like, okay, you see it differently. So I think that's the work. That's how we get to redefine ourselves to ourselves, to recognize that we are indeed one, that we are indeed connected, or else we just keep perpetuating the sense of separation. And then we start having some of the BS that's happening that's so blatant now, particularly in America. It happens here, it's a little bit quiet over here. You don't know it's happening. And one day you're like, wait a minute, I live on the 5th floor. What happened to my stairs? In America, they'll be like, we are taking your stairs and you would never be able to build another one. So tomorrow morning, you're going to be stuck up there. Over here, you won't even know it happened. You're like, oh, shoot. I don't have stairs. Let me try and climb out the window. Oh, there's something. Linda shared something which I didn't read before. I don't think it's really about belonging, yet about being accepted with our differences. I feel we can learn to be open to learning about who you are, I guess. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah. Yes, absolutely. And it's three people having this conversation.
Mm-hmm. With,
I mean, I know we're the light bearers and all that, I get it. And it's just us three.
but
Yeah.
what do you mean by that? Just us three, though.
And I felt this when you were just talking, Ade, like, sure, I can be the one to, I accept being the person to have this conversation with you too, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to saying, I don't want to deal with that today.
Mm-hmm.
I accept that.
Mm-hmm.
And the pessimistic side of it is it's not the norm. It's not the I feel like a lot of people are waking up and wanting to have this conversation. I don't know.
So you feel like this conversation is not the norm?
Yeah. How many people, myself included, realize that they don't belong, or they just feel like they're hated by X group of people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or they learned that from their parents that they shouldn't like those
Yeah.
type of people.
Yeah. I get that. And I would say, in a funny kind of way, it is the norm because we're having the conversation. It is the norm because there are many books around it. And unfortunately, we also live in a society where the negative seems to get more attention, you know. And because of, I don't know if it's because of how we're wired or how we were conditioned, you know, if we would if we if we were talking about the Republicans, Mr. whatever DeSantis or whatever right now, and we're talking about how what they're doing is appalling, and we probably have more listeners. People saying, "Yeah, that is ridiculous." That is ridiculous. We talk about, people who don't subscribe to that way of thinking. Even those who subscribe and get involved and want to defend the people they support. But this kind of conversation sometimes, like, yeah, I know that. But I've heard people who would say they're spiritual and they understand that we are one, and they've said to me, "Yeah, I understand this we're one thing, but sometimes, and this loving thing, but sometimes you just got to meet fire with fire." And I'm like, yeah, you got to meet fire with fire, but don't go without love, or you're going to get burnt. And
Mhm.
love needs an outlet because it looks like hate has more of an outlet, more like fear, really. And when people who are willing to be the place for fear and judgment and criticism and feeling like we're more superior, and those of us who say we're tapped in and not being as vocal, then we are going to feel like the world is going to hell in a handbasket. Sometimes we spend more time trying to expose the lie rather than reveal the truth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The more of us, if we commit more to revealing the truth, then the truth itself, not only would it set us free, would just transform the lies. I'm in some Yahoo, not Yahoo, WhatsApp group where it's about forwarding those of us in the group. It's like what we can do together as a group, as a collective. But then most of the emails, most of the videos and the graphics about what they are doing. Look at what's happening. It's like, oh my God, stop. We keep perpetuating the same thing that we say we don't want. And so I feel like we just got to find the courage to have the conversation with one person, to share and become so focused on revealing the truth and then exposing the lies. That's my thought on that. Reverend David, what about you? What do you think?
I would say yes, and I don't view it as either or, and I realize a lot of people
Right.
in New
Mm-hmm.
Thought and Awakened spiritual communities do, and we have our own internal strife around this, right? There's so
Absolutely.
some polarization within these kinds of communities about how to address it. There's kind of the, you know, bury your head in the sand and it's just love and light brigade kind of, ignore it, don't look over there, we're not the droid you're looking for kind of
Right,
method.
right, right.
And then there's the vocal call it out, kind of
Mhm.
method. And you make a very good point, which is, in the vocal calling it out method, which I'm certainly very familiar with for myself, we have to be careful to not, you know be creating more of that which we say we're fighting against,
Mhm.
more of creating us versus them, and all of that.
Mhm.
And so the reason I say is a both and is, while I think that caution is a very important caution, it's not one that should silence us to the point of not speaking up and not advocating for those on the margins, because
Absolutely.
it's a very privileged position to say,
Mhm.
well, I'm just going to stay in a positive mindset consciousness and not address it because I don't want
Yes.
to, I don't want to name DeSantis or anybody else as a bad person. I don't want to participate in
Mhm.
that consciousness of us and them.
Mhm.
So I'm just not going to name them.
Mhm.
And then there are those who are, on the underside of the acts, the immoral, if we would call it out, the
Mhm.
immoral acts of
Mhm.
them, that need somebody to speak up for them, that need somebody
Mhm.
to defend them and say, wait a second, this is not right.
Mhm.
And for our response to be like, well, I'm sorry you're having that experience. It's not affecting me, but
Yeah.
I'm just not going to call them a them.
Mhm.
you know, so that it's got to balance itself out. And
Mhm.
we have to, I think, have the prophetic and moral courage to call a thing,
Yes.
and still stay in love, and know that there is a
Yes.
truth, that when we
Mhm.
name that truth is greater than any of the lies. And so to bring it back, if I can, to the what's underneath about the belonging, I think what's universal is the need to belong,
Mhm.
right? Or what's we were saying, what if the conversation, whether it was normalized or what was the word we were using, I forgot now. But for me, what's normal or universal is the need to belong. And therefore, that's why we're seeing so much of the
Yeah.
polarization and the
Absolutely.
attacks and everything else, because, as I said in the beginning, that's creating a false sense of belonging to smaller
Mhm.
groups, right? So
Mhm.
there's those that believe that these
Mhm.
books shouldn't be allowed in the schools, or that
Right.
these people shouldn't receive gender affirming care or what,
Mm-hmm.
pick the topic. There's a lot of them these days, right?
Yes.
But people are bonding and
Mm-hmm.
therefore having a sense of belonging
Mm-hmm.
around their common sense of
Mm-hmm.
whether that's right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So universally, regardless of where we are on the polarization scale, or political left or right, or however we want to divide it, um, both groups are actually getting the same need met, which is that need to feel like they belong.
Yes.
Well, we could talk about whether those are healthy ways of meeting that need or unhealthy ways or productive
Right.
and
Yeah.
useful to
Yeah.
the rest of humanity or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting, in terms of just oneness, that, oh, look at that. It's actually the same need. It's not the way I
Mm-hmm.
want to fill that need.
Mm-hmm.
Work for me. And I don't think it really creates a better world for everybody. But isn't that
Yeah.
interesting that when you strip away the morality of somebody's choices and behavior, what they're actually getting at is addressing the same need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're getting ready to release this conversation, but I have this thought, and I just want to hear what you both think about it. As I think about it, I'm like, I've never looked at it this way. And the idea of we cannot have in the world what we are not willing to become.
Right.
And I don't know if this is the first time. I often say it and I know it and I stand by it and I live it. But then when I look at the others who are the opposite side of the spectrum, and I think, oh, they're willing to become what they believe they want to see in the world. And so maybe it seems it could be seen as love is not popular, even though people say I don't know if I'm projecting, but Reverend David, when I said that, your head kind of went to the side, like what? But I don't know if you did. It's like people say yes, yeah, we know we gotta love somebody. It's the way love is often seen as really what I'm saying. Love is often seen as being passive. We don't see love as like it's very active.
Yeah.
It's about taking action. It takes love to sit in a restaurant where you're not allowed to be in as a black person.
Right.
That's love. And people say, I would never take that. Yeah, we never know what we can take. But anyway, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that idea of we cannot have in the world what we're not willing to become. Speaking of becoming, belonging and becoming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, completely 100% on board with that. I quoted Ben McBride, or dropped his name in the beginning. One of the things he talks about in his work of belonging is, he says, in terms of social justice, is he says the wrong first question is, what do we need to do? The right first question is, who do we need to become?
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on, and his teaching is all about taking that becoming, whatever comes up in that answer. And then he says, are we willing, what are we doing today to bridge that becoming from our current space? I'm not quite saying it the way he says it, but I think the way he says it is how does that becoming, whatever the answer is in that answering that question, what do we need to become? How does that becoming inform, this is it, and I knew it would come to me, inform a doing that is not currently in our reach. Right? That's the key. That's the key.
Yes.
How does that becoming inform a doing that is not currently in our reach? And that creates the action path. And there you have it. You mentioned it, the willingness to sit at a lunch counter where you're not welcome and have racial slurs and stuff poured on you and all the stuff that happened during that time, or to be have water hoses turned on you and think those were actions of doing that people were willing to do because the becoming informed the doing. It's like I'm willing to tolerate this. I'm willing to put on display and be the target of the hate and the oppression, such that other people can see it and therefore witness how wrong it is.
Yes.
And that takes a lot of love. It's the kind of sacrifice that any parent knows, right? You ask, I've got two kids. It's like, oh, ask me what I'm willing to do to make sure that they know that they're protected and loved and cared for and everything else. And parents put up with a lot of sacrifice because that's the willingness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course you will, because they're your children,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they say they don't like you, and
Right.
you know,
I hate you.
next
I'm
day,
going in my room.
like I'll do it again, right?
Yes. They hate you and they go in their room. It's like, actually, that's not your room. If you really hate me, you will leave the house, but you can't go too far because
We're
I'm
back
going
to the
to
power
come
over
behind you.
dynamic, as you
Yeah.
can see.
Right. Jeannie. Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes to it all. Love for all the things. I'm going to speak very elegantly. Hold on. Love for all of the things is what I believe will bring us back as a whole to all feeling like we belong that much more. Like it could be love for myself, for them, for the way our society is viewing this situation, political view, love for people, you know, the next generation.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and that sounds a little more doable to not doable. That sounds a little less complicated to me.
Mm.
It's just love.
Yeah. Yeah. And in love is
Period.
being. Yes, period. um, Reverend David, when you get a chance, can you share the titles and the author of that book, even if you share it later? I would love to post it, and I want to pick up those books as
Oh
well.
yeah, absolutely. Sebene
Yeah.
Selassie, You
Mm,
Belong. Yeah, and I'll send it to you. And then we've done a whole course that actually is on demand
mm,
at
mm.
newthoughtaeducation.com that you could take at any time. That's
Okay.
based on that book.
Hmm.
So I'll send you the link for that. And if you want to send that out to anybody, I'd
Ah,
be grateful.
yeah. I remember. Yeah, absolutely. And we don't have time to have this conversation now, but I'm just going to put it out there. I feel like I want to ask you, but if you want to have the conversation, we could talk about it another time. Reverend David, it's the idea of, I remember when I first experienced you, when I watched you and what you were teaching when you first came to Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta, and what you were teaching was like, wow. It was kind of like, this white man gets it. And oftentimes, it's not the kind of conversation you hear at spiritual living centers.
Right.
And I wonder, maybe if we have another conversation, we could talk more about. I wonder what that process was like for you. I'm sure you didn't start it when you came there. You came into it, you brought that with you.
Right.
But what is it like to move into a new space and bring a old new conversation? An old conversation to a new place, but that's really part of the conversation. That's what we're talking about. It's like, why is this a problem? But anyway,
Let's have that fun conversation. I love to do that.
Yes,
There's a
I
lot
would
to unpack
definitely,
especially
yes,
coming from where I came from
yes,
I was
yes.
thinking.
on many levels.
That's what I was thinking. Well, I'm thinking of just geographically where you were before and
Right.
where you are now.
Where were you before?
I was in Oregon.
Oh yeah, we gotta have another conversation.
Okay.
Do you need a visa to go back home?
No, but I was raised in New Mexico actually, and my
Oh wow.
stepfather is Hispanic, and so big Hispanic family. And so the big joke about people from New Mexico is that they're like when I was a teen, my friends from camp would like send me mail with like 3 stamps on it. Is this going to reach you? It's like it is in the
Just
United
in
States.
case.
Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend David. Tell listeners, those who are going to watch later, how to find you. What's your website address? Anything that you're doing?
Sure.
Just share.
The easiest is slca.com. That's the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. I would really encourage people to check out newthoughtaeducation.com. That's the platform where we have the You Belong course as well as other courses. Many of them are free. They're on demand. And that's the education platform for our spiritual community, but we're putting content on there that anybody anywhere can access on demand on their time. So newthoughtaeducation.com, and through both of those sites you'll find various things. If you get stuck or you can't remember those, you can remember RevDavidAlexander.com. And I try to keep that site updated. I think that's got links to podcasts and all of that kind of stuff, YouTube, Facebook, etc.
Thank you very much. That's Reverend
Appreciate it.
David Alexander. You're welcome. Thank you for just joining us and saying, yeah, I want to be a part of that conversation. Just make sure I got your website address.
We create good content for the world to listen to, and
Indeed.
I enjoy listening when I run across this, and honored to be part of the conversation.
Thank you. Anything else that you want us to know? Maybe something you pop to your mind is like, I don't know if I can say that. If you have one of those, say it.
Oh, me?
Yeah. I like it.
He doesn't want to ask me that question.
Well, I'm coming to you next.
I don't have any.
We got 10 seconds to go. I'll come to you 10 seconds to go. We got to go, Jeannie. So yeah, if you just have anything. So it's newthoughtaeducation.com, slca.com, and reverenddavidalexander.com. Right?
Those will do it.
Thank you. Jeannie, what about you? What are you up to? What are you creating?
I founded drawchange.org, which is a nonprofit organization that works with impoverished children around the world. And that ranges from below the poverty line to asylum seeking, refugee children. And through the use of art therapy-based programming, we empower them to know that they belong, that they can be anything they want to be in life, that they are not a victim of their circumstances, etc. And I'm having a summer camp in Atlanta this summer. And we have scholarship dollars. If anyone is in an Atlanta public school system and you know a family in need, or you are a family in need, please send them my way. It's in the city of Atlanta. Because I received a lot of funding from the city of Atlanta to bring children in need, and it's actually surprising that it's difficult to find those children. And that's because it goes back to privilege, their parents not having access to, not having the time, all the above. So you didn't ask me for an ask, but that's my ask. If you're watching this and you know someone, a family in need,
absolutely,
please send them my way. My website is drawchange.org. That's the nonprofit.
It's all about inner authority. Yep. Make space, create space, take space. So thank you for asking. My website is thebusinessofbeing.com. You can find more information about me. You can find information about my new book, which I'm excited about. Spiritual Appetizers for the Soul. For a minute, I was like, what's the name of my book again? Spiritual Appetizers for the Soul. It's a book of downloads, messages to bring you back to yourself so you can access your own truth. Thebusinessofbeing.com. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Reverend David. And look forward to us continuing the conversation, having the conversation, however it wants to happen. And Reverend David, thank you. I know your schedule is busy. You're probably going to rush to another Zoom meeting or something right now. So thank you for making time.
Thank you.
Thank you, beautiful people.